I wasn't looking for her. She just appeared. It started on a late walk, the kind I take when the world is quiet and no one notices me. That's when I saw her apartment window glowing like a lantern on the corner. The blinds were half open, and through the slice of light I caught her moving carelessly and comfortably. She had no idea anyone could see her. She wasn't glamorous, no, she's not the type of girl you'd stop in the street to admire. But that's what I liked. The ordinary ones never imagine they're being watched. She wore loose sweatshirts, soft shorts, hair tied back in the lazy way of someone who thinks she's safe in her own world. She had a habit of pacing when she talked on the phone, hands moving animatedly, expression shifting from laughter to irritation in a heartbeat. I could have kept walking, but something about her anchored me to the sidewalk. She was predictable, and predictable means easy target. That night I stayed longer than I meant to, just watching her routine. The way she dropped her keys on the same counter. The way she carried her trash out at the exact same time. The way she forgot to lock the door behind her until minutes later. That's when I knew. I hadn't just found her, I had chosen her. For weeks I'd been watching her. She wasn't special, not in the way people imagine. No fame, no fortune. Just a girl who lived alone in a ground floor apartment. She left her blinds cracked open every night, spilling warm yellow light into the street. From the sidewalk, I could see enough. Her pacing the kitchen in oversized sweatshirt, sitting cross-legged on her couch, scrolling on her phone. Normal, but predictable. That's what drew me in. I learned her schedule. She always took the trash out around 9:45 p.m. Earbuds in, music too loud to hear anything else. She never locked her door immediately after coming back inside. Sometimes minutes would pass before she remembered. And when she showered, she sang very loudly. It's incredible what people reveal when they think no one's paying attention. The first time I tested the lock, my hands shook, not out of fear, but out of excitement. The door gave the faintest click when I turned it, and I almost laughed out loud. I didn't go inside, not that night. I just wanted to know that I could. Soon I did more than check. I slipped in while she was asleep. The thrill of standing in her living room while she lay unconscious in the next room was electric. I memorized the sound of her breathing through the cracked bedroom door. Long, steady inhales. I stood there until my chest rose and fell in sync with hers. I never touched anything. Not at first. She would have noticed. Instead, I left tiny reminders that I'd been there. A cabinet door left open, a shoe turned the wrong way, a chair nudged slightly off from where it had been. Just enough to unsettle her, to make her wonder if she was forgetful, if she was losing her mind. I could see it working. She started double-checking her locks at night. She glanced over her shoulder when she carried the trash out. Her blinds closed more often. She felt me even when she couldn't see me. That's the part I love the most. The invisible hand around her life, tightening day by day. I was patient because real predators never rush their meal, they savor it. They let you feel safe again. They let you think maybe it was all in your head. And then, when you've convinced yourself you're fine, that's when they step forward. And tonight the blinds were wide open again. She must have forgotten, but I hadn't. I'd already been inside earlier while she was showering. I slipped through the door she left unlocked after bringing in her groceries. I didn't stay long, just enough to move things again. The framed photo on her dresser now faced the wrong way. Her bathroom towel, the one she left hanging, I folded neatly and placed on the counter. Subtle and intimate. It would gnaw at her later. From the street, I watched her laugh nervously at the TV. She didn't even realize her phone charger was missing. It was in my pocket. She'd tear the place apart looking for it. That night I wanted more. Past 2 in the morning, when the world outside had gone silent, I slipped around the back and pressed my hand against the sliding door. Unlocked. Again. Inside it was still. Too still. My gut told me she was awake. Waiting. Her bedroom door was ajar. I stood in the gap watching her sleep. The rise and fall of her chest. The phone glowing on the nightstand, a small lamp casting a warm pool of light on the walls. I stepped in. My shadow fell across her blanket. She shifted slightly, murmured something in her sleep. I leaned closer just to listen. Then I pulled back because I wasn't here to end anything that night. No, that night was only about proof. When she woke the next morning, she'd find the chair from her desk pulled into the middle of the room facing her bed. And maybe, just maybe, she'd wonder if she dreamed about me sitting there in the dark watching her. The next day, she found the chair. I knew at the moment I saw her face through the blinds, pale, shaken, her hands trembling as she called someone on the phone. Police? Maybe a friend. It didn't matter. They would check the locks and maybe patrol the block, but they'd never find me. They never do. That night, though, she made her first real mistake. She turned on every light in the apartment and left the blinds wide open, as if daring me to look in, as if pretending that illumination equals safety. But all it did was put her on display like a specimen under glass. And I watched for hours until the lights went out. I waited longer than usual before I made my move. Past 2 in the morning. No cars, no footsteps, just the crickets and my own pulse hammering in my ears. The back door slid open without resistance. Inside, the apartment was different. The air felt heavy, expectant. My gut told me she was awake. I stepped carefully toward the bedroom, but the door was closed. It had never been closed before. For a moment, I stood there, hand hovering over the knob. Was this a trap? Had she called someone to sit inside with her to catch me in the act? My chest tightened with the risk, but also with something hotter, the exhilaration. I turned the knob slowly. The door creaked open. She was sitting upright in bed, wide-eyed, clutching her phone in one hand. Her lips parted like she wanted to scream but couldn't find the air. And in that frozen instant, with her gaze locked on mine, I realized something. I didn't need to hide anymore. I stepped fully into the room as she pressed her back against the bedboard, phone shaking in her grip. Don't come any closer," she stammered with her voice breaking. But I did. One step, then another. The phone slipped from her hand onto the sheets and she reached for it again, fumbling, but I was faster. My hand came down, covering hers. She gasped, with her whole body trembling beneath my shadow. "I've been here every night, and you didn't even know." Her scream tore through the room with high, piercing desperation. It echoed off the walls out into the night. And that's when the pounding started. Heavy fists on the front door, voices shouting. Someone had been waiting after all. The last thing I saw before the room flooded with flashing lights was her face, her eyes wide with terror, but also with relief. Relief that I was finally caught. Relief that the nightmare was over, at least for her. She bolted from the bed, throwing herself against the far wall, eyes darting between me and the flashing red and blue bleeding through the blinds. I didn't move. I didn't need to. Heavy boots crashed through the front door, rattling the walls, and suddenly the hallway blazed with lights, with guns drawn. Commands barked. "Hands where we can see them." I lifted my hands almost lazily, the corners of my mouth curling. Because as they pinned me to the floor, as they dragged me away in cuffs, I leaned close enough to let her hear me whisper one last thing. "You'll never stop checking your locks again." And as she sobbed against the wall, I smiled. Because even in chains, I had already won. They dragged me away in cuffs, flashing lights strobing across her pale, tear-streaked face. The last image I had of her before the cell door slammed shut was her trembling in the corner, clutching herself like she might break apart. That image has never left me. Now, weeks later, I sit in a cold metal chair in the prison visitation room. The air smells of bleach and stale coffee. The guards pretend not to listen, but they hover close enough to catch every word. Across from me sits a lawyer I barely know, droning on about my case, appeals, paperwork. I don't hear any of it. My eyes drift to the plexiglass window behind him, where beyond the barrier I can see the faint reflection of my own face. And in that reflection I see her. I imagine her walking past the prison gates just once, curious, unable to stop herself from looking inside to see if I'm really here. I imagine her sitting across from me, hands tight in her lap, forcing herself to meet my stare while her body trembles. Would she say anything? Or would she sit in silence, knowing I don't need her words? I lean closer to the glass, speaking under my breath as if she's already there. "You still think of me every night, don't you?" The lawyer shifts uncomfortably, clears his throat. He doesn't understand who I'm talking to. He doesn't need to. When the guards finally escort me back to my cell, I carry that imagined conversation with me. I can almost feel her presence lingering in the room. I lay on the thin cot and close my eyes, and there she is again, with her blinds drawn tight, her hand hovering over the locks, her eyes darting to every shadow. That's my victory, not escape, not freedom, just this, knowing that in her mind I never left. They can build the walls higher, they can throw away the key, but she lives in a prison too, one I built for her, one she'll never walk out of. And every time I close my eyes here, I see her still locked inside it with me.